On my orders, the United States military has begun strikes.
How does a war begin? Is it really about honor, freedom, the defense of innocent lives? That's what we're told, but dig a little deeper and you'll find something far more sinister and far more profitable, because war is a business so large, so powerful, that it has become one of the main engines of the global economy. Every time a missile is fired, a contract is signed. Every time a tank rolls through a city, a balance sheet somewhere shows a profit. Every time a country is torn apart by conflict, someone, somewhere, is making money. Big money. And it's not just governments funding these wars. Behind the scenes, there's an invisible empire of corporations. The weapons manufacturers, private security firms, mercenary armies, and cyber contractors who thrive on conflict. The more destruction, the more contracts. The longer the war, the bigger the payout. And here's the terrifying part. In this system, peace is bad for business. In fact, some of the world's most powerful companies need war to stay rich. And as we'll see today, these businesses don't just profit from war. In many cases, they fuel it. From billion-dollar arms deals that keep wars going on both sides, to private armies that answer only to their paychecks, not to any flag, to cyber mercenaries who can crash a nation's grid at the click of a mouse. This is the trillion-dollar war machine, and by the end of this video, you'll see how it operates, and why stopping it may be impossible. Because when war becomes a product, who would ever want peace? When we think of war, we picture generals, presidents, dictators, the people on our TV screens making the decisions, but the real power, the real control, that belongs to people you don't see. People like James Clitt, the CEO of Lockheed Martin, the world's largest defense contractor, pulling in over $66 billion a year selling fighter jets, missiles, and weapon systems. Or Gregory Hayes, the boss of RTX Corporation. You might know them better as Raytheon, the makers of the Stinger missiles and Patriot defense systems that fuel conflicts from Ukraine to the Middle East. Or Charles Woodburn, who runs BAE Systems, a British giant arming both NATO and historically regimes with questionable human rights records. These men don't command armies, they command supply chains, because in the 21st century, governments don't make their own weapons, they buy them. And in doing so, they've handed power to private corporations. Corporations that exist to profit. Take Lockheed Martin. During the US war in Afghanistan, they made billions on contracts for the F-35 fighter jet, the HIMARS missile system, and Black Hawk helicopters. Every bomb that fell, every drone that launched, their shareholders saw a return. Or look at General Dynamics, whose Abrams tanks have rolled across battlefields in Iraq, Syria, and now, thanks to billion-dollar deals, in Eastern Europe. And the money doesn't stop with weapons. Companies like KBR and Fluor made fortunes providing logistics, food, housing, fuel. A single contract for food services in Iraq, worth over $7 billion. Here's the terrifying reality. These corporations don't just supply wars, they need wars. In 2022, as the war in Ukraine escalated, Lockheed Martin's share price surged by over 30% in a matter of weeks. Raytheon? Up 20%. BAE? Their stock hit decade-long highs, and for investors, war is opportunity. In fact, arms companies' annual reports openly celebrate rising global tensions as a positive business environment, growing demand for our defense systems amid geopolitical instability. That's straight from BAE's 2022 investor briefing. So when you see news footage of a new conflict, remember, somewhere in a glass skyscraper, a corporate boardroom is watching too, and calculating the profits. And here's where it gets darker. These companies don't just wait for war to break out, they lobby for it. In the US alone, defense contractors spend over $100 million a year on lobbying. They fund think tanks, they sponsor experts who appear on TV calling for stronger military action, and at the center of it all, the revolving door. Former generals and defense officials take lucrative jobs at these firms, while former executives move into government, shaping policy in ways that just happen to benefit their old employers. This is the hidden machine behind modern war, a machine that converts destruction into dividends. And as we'll see in the next chapter, weapons makers are just the beginning, Because there's another market that's even dirtier, the black market for arms, where weapons don't just go to allies, they go to anyone who can pay. If the arms industry's giants, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, BAE, profit from the wars we see on the news, then the black market is where war thrives in the shadows. This is the market where the weapons don't come with government approval, where there are no treaties, no oversight, just deals. And here, the only rule is simple: cash talks. The business of illegal arms trading is estimated to be worth over $10 billion a year, but no one really knows.
There are over 550 million firearms in worldwide circulation. That's one firearm for every 12 people on the planet. The only question is, how do we arm the other 11?
Because every deal is designed to be untraceable. And at the heart of it, a network of brokers, middlemen, and shell companies, many of them former insiders of the official defense industry. People like Viktor Bout, nicknamed the Merchant of Death, a Russian arms dealer who made hundreds of millions supplying weapons to civil wars, dictators, and terrorist groups. He ran a fleet of cargo planes, flying under fake names and forged documents, delivering everything from AK-47s to surface-to-air missiles. Where did those weapons end up? In the hands of the Taliban, in the jungles of Africa's bloodiest conflicts, in the arsenals of groups like Hezbollah and Al-Shabaab. And Viktor Bout, he wasn't alone. Throughout history, illegal arms have flowed from places like Eastern Europe's surplus stockpiles, smuggled out through black market routes in the Balkans and the Caucasus. In the chaos after the fall of the Soviet Union, entire weapons depots were raided, crates of assault rifles, rocket launchers, even tanks, sold off at bargain prices. And who are the buyers? Warlords, cartels, insurgent groups, sometimes even governments, looking to arm proxy forces without leaving fingerprints. And here's the most twisted part. Some of these illegal deals started as legal ones. Western governments flood conflict zones with weapons to support allies. And when those wars go sideways, the weapons don't disappear. They get sold, traded, stolen. Remember ISIS storming across Iraq with American-made Humvees and rifles? That's the black market at work. And while the headlines focus on the terrorists using those weapons, almost no one talks about the trail of profits that led to their hands. Because for brokers in this industry, there's no morality, only margins. The more chaotic the world becomes, the more opportunities arise for shadow players to cash in. And as we'll see in the next chapter, they're not just selling weapons anymore, they're selling entire armies.
Command pilot detail, we're about to reach the target. Roger, let's drop.
Imagine a soldier. You picture a flag on their uniform, a cause they believe in, a country they serve. But what if that soldier's loyalty wasn't to a nation, but to a paycheck? Welcome to the age of the private army, where war is outsourced like any other service, and entire units of trained killers can be hired with a contract. And the business? It's booming. In the early 2000s, during the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, the US government alone spent over $160 billion on private military contractors. The most infamous? Blackwater. Founded by former Navy SEAL Eric Prince, Blackwater was hired to provide security, but what they really delivered was controversy. In 2007, Blackwater contractors gunned down 17 civilians in Baghdad's Nizor Square.
Don't know what the they're doing.
Sparking international outrage and revealing just how unaccountable private armies could be. Despite the scandal, the business model worked. Blackwater simply changed its name, first to West Services, then to Academy, and kept winning contracts. And Blackwater wasn't alone. DynCorp, billions in contracts for training foreign police and military units. Triple Canopy, another giant in the private security sector, guarding everything from embassies to oil fields. Wagner Group, the Russian mercenary force tied to Vladimir Putin's inner circle, accused of war crimes from Syria to Ukraine to Africa. These groups operate in a gray zone, not bound by the rules of national armies, not held accountable the way a government would be, and hired by whoever can afford their services, from governments to corporations to dictators and warlords. And here's the chilling part. These private armies are now essential to modern warfare. They guard oil pipelines, they protect presidents, they fight in active war zones, and because they're private, they can go where official armies can't, doing the dirty work while governments deny responsibility. The result? War has become a service industry. And as with any industry, the more conflict there is, the greater the demand. But what if you don't need boots on the ground anymore? What if you could bring a country to its knees without ever firing a bullet? That's where we're heading next. Into the invisible wars fought by cyber mercenaries. You don't see them coming, no tanks, no missiles. No boots on the ground, just a flicker on your screen, a system crash, a power outage, a bank account emptied. Welcome to modern war, where the soldiers are hackers, the weapons are lines of code, and the battlefield is everywhere. And behind these invisible wars, a rapidly growing business of cyber mercenaries. Companies that sell digital sabotage to the highest bidder. No ideology, no allegiance, just contracts. Let's name names. NSO Group, an Israeli firm behind Pegasus, one of the most powerful spyware tools ever built. Pegasus was originally marketed to governments to fight terrorism, but investigations showed it was sold to regimes that used it to spy on journalists, activists, even rival politicians. Kandiru, another Israeli company linked to selling tools for hacking computers, phones, and servers. Their clients? Often governments with terrible human rights records. Dark Matter, a UAE-based cyber firm accused of recruiting ex-NSA and ex-CIA operatives to help build offensive hacking programs for the Emirati government. Hacking Team, an Italian company caught selling surveillance tools to repressive regimes despite international sanctions. These aren't rogue hackers in basements. They're polished corporations with marketing departments, offices in glass towers, and booths at cybersecurity trade shows. And the product? Exploits that can break into your phone without you clicking a thing, shut down power grids, hijack government servers, wipe out entire financial systems. And as demand has surged, so have profits. Cyber arms dealers can charge millions for a single zero-day exploit. Software flaws no one else knows exist that give attackers godlike access to their target. Zerodium, for example, openly advertises its price list up to $2.5 million for a zero-click iPhone exploit, millions more for advanced Android or Windows attacks. And here's the terrifying part. These cyber mercenaries don't care who they sell to. Dictators, rogue states, criminal syndicates. If the money's right, the code is yours. And because the attacks are invisible, attribution is nearly impossible. Governments can deny involvement, companies can claim ignorance, but the consequences are real. Power grids shut down, hospitals paralyzed, elections manipulated, and the damage in the billions. But as we'll see in the final chapter, all of this, from missiles to mercenaries to malware, shares one horrifying truth: war has become too profitable to stop. What if I told you the greatest threat to peace isn't hatred? It isn't ideology. It isn't even power-hungry dictators. It's profit. Because when war becomes one of the world's most lucrative industries, the system starts to work against peace, not for it. Let's look at the numbers. In 2022 alone, Lockheed Martin made over $66 billion. Raytheon, RTX, nearly $68 billion. BAE Systems, over £23 billion. And that was before global tensions sent demand for weapons soaring. Now combine that with the black market arms trade, the private mercenary firms, and the cyber weapons brokers, and you have an economy that thrives on conflict. When a new war breaks out, defense company stocks rise. When a new arms deal is signed, investors cheer. When tensions escalate, new contracts flood in. And here's where the incentives turn dangerous. Peace means fewer deals. Peace means smaller budgets. Peace means layoffs, lower profits, declining stock prices. You don't have to take my word for it. Just look at how defense executives describe their business to investors. Growing global instability has created strong demand for our solutions. BAE Systems' annual report, our portfolio is well positioned to benefit from elevated defense spending. Lockheed Martin, investor presentation. The uncomfortable truth? War isn't just tragedy anymore, it's opportunity. And when so many billions depend on conflict, it's no wonder that peace so often slips through our fingers. Because this isn't just about defense anymore, it's about dividends, and that's why, as long as this machine exists, the world will keep finding reasons to fight. So next time you see headlines about a new war, or hear calls for intervention, or watch a nation's leaders rattle their sabers, ask yourself, who profits? And remember, in the trillion-dollar business of war, peace doesn't pay. If you thought war was the most profitable kind of destruction, think again. In our next video, we expose the marketplaces that didn't just enable a global death crisis, they profited from it. Click now to see how human lives became commodities.